Welcome to the Super Friends podcast, where we talk about comics, superheroes, and all things related and in between. I'm Brody.
And I'm Brian. And, today we're going to be talking about CGI versus practical effects with special guest star, my brother Tyler.
Woo!
Hi, I'm Tyler.
This is Tyler.
I'm a big fan of superheroes, so it's fun to be on this podcast and be able to talk about this kind of stuff with these guys.
What a guy.
What a guy.
What a guy.
That's an introduction. That's a good introduction.
Cool.
Cool kid.
Cool.
Yeah. What he didn't say, though, is that he also really likes movies, so it's also fun to talk about CGI versus practical effects.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of practical effects over CGI.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm here today.
We're happy to have you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, we're excited. We've been trying to get Tyler on the show for ever. When was this episode supposed to air? Like a month ago?
Yeah, like a month ago, and then he had work and I had work, and
then that happened, and then Brian got sick, so I made that super awesome Amazovirus post where
I thought that
Batman's
was awesome.
Mask breaks and he says, "I've been exposed."
I thought that was hilarious.
It's a piece of art. I actually really appreciate that post that I made. I was like, wow. Sometimes you just gotta appreciate your own genius, you know?
It was quite genius. I thought it was hilarious. I had to show everyone in the house. I did. I was like, look at this. This is hilarious.
I said no episode this week at the bottom. And I was like, for the ones that get it, they'll get it.
Exactly. But unlike Batman, I did not gain superpowers.
Yeah.
It's a true rip.
Sadly not.
He also didn't die, though, so I mean,
Well, he didn't die either. That time.
He almost did.
Okay, fair enough.
Came close.
Exactly.
A lot of people did die.
Exactly.
Let's leave it at that.
It's true.
But yeah. And then we had Mia last week. Whoever's watching this, if or listening to it, I guess, because we're going to be doing audio and video, hopefully both this time. Check out our episode last week. We had a guest star, Mia. She won our contest, and we talked about Harley Quinn. So go check that out. And then Tyler's just here for fun. We just wanted to bring him in. He didn't win a contest. He won the contest of having Brian as a brother. That's the contest he won.
What a win.
The lottery of life.
Wow. What a quality rose by Tyler.
All right.
It's a win. It's a win.
Let's just jump into it. Why don't we? Let's talk about some popular movies that use practical effects.
I think one thing you have to start with, because this is also a superhero podcast, is the Dark Knight trilogy.
Of course.
Oh, yeah, for
like
sure.
The whole, the Tumbler was all practical, and I thought that was awesome to see in the movie. Like when it actually is driving around, none of that is CGI. It's actually, I mean, part of it's then miniatures as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was a big fan of that, like watching the behind the scenes of The Dark Knight, and specifically the scene where I think it's a garbage truck that the Tumbler rams into, and of course it looks great in the actual movie, but watching the behind the scenes, and it's just a little to scale model of the Tumbler aiming itself right into the and then you watch Christopher Nolan walk up and he's towering over it, pointing out, this is where it looks good here, and we can, and it's really cool watching those, and because it of course it all looks completely real then when you're watching the actual movie, because it's a real thing.
Well, also you can do so much with camera work, that you can give off the idea. Like our brains physically can't separate that this is just tiny. If our brains aren't given the information to say this is a tiny model, then our brains can't differentiate between a tiny model and life size. So it's amazing that with camera work you can make it look so lifelike, even though it's a little tiny model. Same thing with all the sets for the prequel series of the Star Wars. You can see those, and those are all these these tiny little dioramas they built, and that's how they filmed a lot of those sceneries, is because they're just these tiny. If you don't tell your brain that's tiny, it doesn't know that it's tiny, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I love that.
Unless you're watching the 1978 Superman, where it's when the dam breaks And while I mean I still enjoy it, it was back in like before they had developed a lot more technique
Yeah.
for it, but it's still really enjoyable to watch because it is still a real thing. It's a real tiny town
Yeah,
being hosed down.
I don't know if Brian told you, but on Tuesday last week, I got the opportunity to go to my movie theater was having a special showing of Superman 78 for his anniversary. So I went and saw it like on their big screen, and yeah, it's a little bit noticeable on that big screen.
We were so jealous.
Love the
we didn't
movie
get it
on
at our theater.
Yeah,
So mad.
It was an experience. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is how people
Quality.
saw it in like in 78, and this is like the experience they had. It was amazing. But yeah, definitely looking back, you're like, that is a diorama. Like, I could build that in my middle school like prop class or something. You know, stick a little tree, throw a little grass on.
Buy little sets from Hobby Lobby, you know.
Yeah.
Houses.
We tried doing that. We were trying to collect all bunch of stuff. We're like, we're gonna do it, and then we didn't.
Yeah. And so like that's at the era. Yeah, like Tyler said, that's the era where they're like, this is what we gotta do. Like, this is what we gotta do, and this is like how much we have to like work with it. Like,
Exactly.
we've got to do this in this much room, and you get creative when you're forced to create. You get creative, which I think perfectly segues into our next topic, where we talk about, which is almost every movie nowadays, but popular movies that use CGI.
I mean, I didn't like it, but Avatar. I don't really like the Avatar movies. I mean, they're okay. They're not.
I just blew Pocahontas.
That's all it is.
Exactly.
It's a white guy comes to a native race to get something, and then they killed the natives, and then he joins the natives against the bad guys. And
exactly.
It's blue Pocahontas.
It's all Pocahontas.
Like, I didn't really like I said, I didn't enjoy him, but it's all CGI. And while I thought the story especially the second one, I thought it was very bland.
I haven't seen the second one. I was just like, eh.
I fell asleep.
He fell asleep. I was the only one that stayed awake through the whole, it was me, Tyler, our sister, and her husband. I was the only one that stayed awake through the whole movie, and that's just because I didn't even know why, but even watching though, I was sitting there like, these effects look fantastic though. Like when CGI holds up, it looks great. Unlike Superman's stash, that was horrible. That was atrocious.
Yeah,
it was just horrible.
That was well, they're spending a lot of things. I mean, first off, disclaimer, the CGI and the visual effects industry is overworked, and they're going to spend no time with their families, and they're like, oh, you finished that? Here's another $1 billion project we need done by Friday. So it's like, if they were given the money and if they were given the time, like, they could make their effects look so amazing. Exactly. I listened to another podcast today about the troll at the end of the Eternals, how it looks like completely awful. I think his name is Pip the Troll. He looks versus like the freaking not Centaur in Narnia, Mr. Totals, or you know who I'm talking about, right? In Narnia.
James McAvoy's character? What are we talking about?
Yeah, the guy with he has the horse. My brain is, yeah.
The centaur?
The centaur or the fawn?
The fawn.
Fawn.
Mr. Tumnus.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go.
Like, he looks so much better than that troll. And that's been, 20 years almost since that. You'd think, CGI would have gotten better since that, which it has. But they're like, I need you to do this much work, and I need it done by Friday.
Yeah.
It's, because, working at the movie theater, you kind of start to, you realize things about, the credits and when you, sit and watch. And, it's like we had Marvel movies while we had Avatar. And the thing was, Avatar's credits, even though it's, you'd think it would have, really long credits, because, of course, it's a big production where it's a lot of effects. When you think about Marvel, and they're like, yeah, with all their visual effects, companies that they use, they don't use just one, they use multiple. And so it goes, it's the longest credits in the world. They're 10 minutes. And then Avatar's was like half of that because most of their visual effects were done by Weta Workshop. And so because they like, everybody talks about, oh yeah, and the Avatar movie, they finished filming that, like, the second one, like, a while ago, actually, but it was all those visual effects. And it's because they really did go, like, we're not going to outsource it to a million companies. We're going to use just this one, and we're going to give them all the time that they need.
Yeah.
So that it can look good.
Yeah, James Cameron's literally like, and I think some of the actors also talked about that, like, oh yeah, didn't the first movie come out like 14 years ago or something like that? And they're like, yeah, they needed the time to work. Like, if you're gonna make something so bombastic and so big. And another thing that I saw, the difference between like Star Wars CGI and like Marvel CGI, both are Disney projects, but like Star Wars CGI is in-house, so they have their Lucasfilms, and like these are people that have like worked on the animated shows, and then when they bring these characters to live action, they've already worked on them so long that it's not like they already are familiar with the basis of the character and the model sheets and everything that goes with that. It's not like, it's still difficult, of course, but when they make the jump to live action, they've already got that in mind. But like you said, Tyler, Marvel just hires it out to like, they just outsource it to like 100 million different people, and like, all right, get it done. like She-Hulk. At the end of She-Hulk, when the little robot is like, can you transform like off screen, because the CGI people are already working on a different show. Like, that's so true that it's like they just jump. They're like, oh, you thought you were done, huh? Well, here's three Disney Plus shows and 2 blockbuster movies we need you to finish by
accidentally show the fact they treat their CGI team like crap.
Yeah.
See, that's why it was like great at the beginning of the MCU when they would give them more time, because there was less. I mean, like, it wasn't like, oh well, we're doing 4 movies this year. It was like, okay, so this year we just have 1. Next year we have 2. Year after that we have 1 again.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look at it, like going up to Endgame, it was like 1 movie, like Tyler said, and then like 2 movies. Then they had like 3 movies a year going for a while, and then like when they led up to Endgame, they went to like 4 movies a year, but still pretty well spaced out. But now you're getting like 4 movies a year plus like 8 Disney Plus shows.
Exactly. And so
like,
everybody's just overworked.
Yeah, last year alone, they had like 17 projects that came out, which is more than like almost the entire of the first phase. Sorry, I'm trying to take my sock off. Ugh.
I'm like, what is he doing?
I was literally trying to take my sock off because it was getting sweaty.
Understandable.
But yeah, so it's like CGI was invented to like make things that like you can't practically do. Like, there are a lot of things that like you can practically do, but you can only take it like Avatar. The whole entire Avatar movies would be really different if we didn't have CGI.
Yeah,
that'd look odd.
It looked kind of funny.
Yeah,
the movies wouldn't be so much of a success if they weren't CGI.
Yeah,
because people would start to realize that it's not a very good story.
Exactly. They'd be like, "Wow, this story's really bland. I bet if it had better effects, I think it was better." That's what happened.
No,
I have very strong opinions about Avatar.
I know. I see that. And I can actually say that this time because I can actually see you.
Exactly.
See. Yeah, but I've always held the opinion of CGI should be used in addition. Like, plan out everything that you can do practically. Like, if you can do this practically, you should do it practically, and then see if you can add on to it based off of like with CGI. Like, do you remember the period when Marvel costumes used to be partly practical? Like, you would see behind the screen. Suit. Yeah, you would see behind the screen and be like, oh, that guy's actually wearing a costume. And nowadays you see behind the scenes and everybody's just wearing mocap.
Everyone's wearing, yeah. Especially like when it was Spider-Man's. Like, part of that really bugged me, seeing like behind the scenes of like I can understand like even like Iron Man mostly being mocap because it's an Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
Right. I can understand it. But then like Spider-Man's and behind the scenes it's mocap, and I was like,
I was like, why would you do that? And then
you wear spandex anyway, just put him in spandex like he usually would be.
And you can find the things from like the principal photography of it, and they started off. He had an actual suit, and you're like, oh, that looked great. Why would you then say, never mind, we'll just stick him in a mocap suit and he can run around?
Yeah, we'll just do it in post.
Yeah, it's like, you gotta imagine being the visual effects guys behind that, getting like all the principal photography stuff going like, oh, thank goodness he's in an actual suit, and then you start actually like adding the effects, and you're like,
guess I'll just die.
What happened?
Yeah, you're like, oh, so he has an actual suit, and they're like, yeah, but we're actually not going to use that.
And well, I'm gonna sidetrack here for a second.
Okay.
Right. To sidetrack from like superhero movies just for a second. When I want like sometimes when my mind goes to CGI, I think of Avatar, of course. You think of like and Marvel because they use a lot heavy. Mm-hmm. They use heavy CGI.
Mm-hmm.
But what my mind often goes to is like the MonsterVerse movies with like Godzilla and Kong. Like those are really good CGI movies because I mean, back in the 50s and 60s, they did use guys in gorilla suits and lizard suits for the monsters.
And we should go back to that. No.
Yes.
But
I want Ninja Turtles in life-size Ninja Turtle suits.
Yes.
Dude, those were great.
That I am asking for.
But when I watched the movies, like they did such a good job with Kong, like especially when it says like when you see like the helicopters coming in on Skull Island and they're attacking Kong, and it does the close-up on like his hand. It looks so good. Like he's looking at his hand because it's been cut by the blades in the helicopter, and you can see like you can see his fingerprints, and you can see you can just see the details on his hand and his fur, and then Godzilla when because do a couple close-ups on Godzilla when he's fighting monsters, so you can see him getting beat up, and it's like it looks so good. Like CGI can look really good. It's like we've been saying like practical is good and practical is fantastic. I like practical more, but I mean, when it's necessary, CGI can be great, especially with given the proper time. Like Marvel hasn't been given them time, but we can see with like the MonsterVerse movies and then early Marvel, with given the proper time, CGI looks just as real as practical effects.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you watch Godzilla in the dark, then the thunderstorm, and I'm like, we're all gonna die.
It's great.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a part of like a cinematic experience. You want your CGI to bring your viewer into it more. You don't want them to look at it and be like, oh, that like pulls me out of the experience. Like now all I'm focusing on is like how like
yeah.
Ew. And now you're like suddenly you lost track of the plot, you lost track of like the action or what was being built up that you were like following. And now you have to get back into the movie, which our brain likes to do as least amount of work as possible. So it's just like you have to push yourself to get back into something. And it's like, whether you like it or not, like that's just hard for your brain once you get pulled out of something to get like back into it.
Yeah, especially like when it's such poor CGI that you're trying to get like.
Yeah, because then you're just stuck on that. Like even when you're like, okay, you're trying to get back into it, but then the entire time you're just watching, going like, man, that just looks.
Yeah, and then it pops up again, and you're like, oh.
Like Superman's upper lip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is, I'm scarred by that.
Or in the fourth Superman movie, when they used the same shot of him flying away.
Oh yeah, in the fourth Superman, where it's like the same shot of him flying over the camera, and it's just over. And I didn't really notice that till like that Honest trailer that we watched, and they were like, "Wow."
I love Honest trailers. Shout out for Honest trailers, though.
Shout out for Honest trailers. What a guy.
Yeah.
A big voice.
It's
guy.
like, yeah, you're like, oof. This just like, I'm out now. Like,
yeah.
And even like, I don't know how. It wasn't too bad, but it was like off enough that it bothered me. Doctor Strange's third eye in the second Doctor Strange.
Ooh, yeah.
Like,
I saw that. And I was like,
it didn't look real. It looked bad.
Did someone paint that on you? Like,
I was like, and you guys okay? Like, and there's other things in different movies that when I watch them, I'm like, and you guys okayed this?
Random add-on. Why did they even make it the eye? Why couldn't it be that it was just the dark dimension symbol? Because that would have been cooler because it would have been a callback to the first one, and I feel like it would have actually like had a connection that would have it would have made sense. I mean, like, they don't really explain why. At least I don't remember.
So what they said is that when you access the powers of the Darkhold, like, you welcome that, like, darkness into you or something, and, like, it affects you. So when they went to, like, Evil Strange's world, like, Evil Strange had the eye because he had been using his world's Darkhold for so long. And so, like, that's why he got the eye, was because that's, like, a side effect. The Dark Dimension symbol is because you draw power from the Dark Dimension, which is different from using the Darkhold. But the plot hole is Wanda is the biggest user of the Darkhold in, like, the entire multiverse, and she never got an eye. Like, her fingers just got a little dark.
Yeah.
Like,
and same with Agatha Harkness. She had it for centuries.
Yeah.
Because she's
so it's
had
like
it forever.
I don't know. They're like, that is a Doctor Strange specific symptom. Like,
exactly.
They saw Elizabeth Olsen. They're like, she's far too pretty.
Yeah, they're like, she's way too attractive.
They're like, she wouldn't do good with a third eye. Like, we just
even then, just looking at Catherine Hahn. No, I'm sorry, we can't do it.
We can't do that.
We can't do that. And she's like, she's got that crown. Cover the third eye. It just wouldn't work logistically.
It won't.
It wouldn't work. It'd be poking her, you know.
It'd be poking her.
Exactly.
To be honest, though, I just remembered this because I was talking, we're talking about movies that, like, oh, that CGI so bad I can't. Was it the second Mummy? The second Mummy movie, and it's like the Scorpion King, and it's like it's the Rock, and he's like
part rock, part
Scorpion, and it looks so. But like, they were experimenting, so like okay, they were experimenting. CGI was not necessarily a perfected art form, but it was like I was watching, I was like, what in the what? This looks so bad.
It's terrible.
I think there are Black Adam now that you watch and you're like, wow, that did not age well.
Seriously. I was like, whoa.
Also, because you mentioned Black Adam, though, I just want to say this quickly. I heard some, like, complaints about, like, the CGI in Black Adam. I actually thought the CGI that they especially used for, like, Dr. Fate was actually really spot on.
I thought that was great.
I mean, especially compared to a lot of the recent Marvel movies that have come out. Yeah. Like, it's like, honestly, you're watching that going, like, oh my gosh, what the heck? What was going through their heads when they, like, okayed this?
Mm-hmm.
But in all honesty, I was watching Black Adam, and sure, maybe the story wasn't amazing, but, like, anytime, like, Dr. Fate's doing his thing, I'm like, let's freaking go!
I watched that, and I'm
like, dude, everybody looked awesome. There's certain shots that you're like, there's that meme of, like, Black Adam flying where his
weird.
Like,
you got a point.
Certain shots look bad, but yeah. Like, they definitely did, like, action scenes pretty impressively. Atom Smasher looks really good. Cyclone looks good. Hawkman looks good. Like, they look good.
Looked really good. If you catch my drift, wink, wink.
Stop that.
What? She was attractive. I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways.
but one thing that was rough CGI in that movie, de-muscled Rock.
Yeah, that was
but
so
to be
odd.
fair, that has a lot to do with the fact that we're just so used to seeing, like, muscular The Rock. I mean, like, to be fair, I mean, I'll watch the first Captain America movie, and I'm kind of thrown off by it when like he's going into like do like the examination or whatever. And he's walking around with that shirt on. I'm kind of like, I mean, like now, especially now with like always having jacked Chris Evans, I'm like, that's really weird. But what was honestly really smart, they just always had him wearing like layers then, you know? So he got a jacket on with it. And so it doesn't look as weird, you know?
Whereas The Rock, he's just totally shirtless.
Yeah, he's just
like wearing a loincloth, basically. And that's
like,
it.
What sickly man did they get in to portray, you know,
and
skinny
then they just
Black
put
Adam,
Dwayne's
skinny
face
Captain
on
America.
post.
It's so weird. But to be honest, like, CGI just gets better with, like, it'll get better with time and with proper
time.
Well, time, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
And a proper budget, too.
Well, yeah, you look at, like, the first Iron Man movie. Dude, like...
It holds up. And it's been, like, over 10 years.
Like, even, like... Yeah, you look at, like, you keep going. And even, like, Ultron, with all the Ultron bots and everything. Fantastic. Like, it looks great. Amazing. And then you look at, like, the set photos, and it's like Ultron had an actual, like, he wore like a mask and he like had like a suit kind of thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then they take that and they add a little enhancement to it, which I think is the biggest point of like what we're trying to say is like it's just got to be like not fully. So we have a point on here, basically two camps. James Cameron, which is like we mentioned, Avatar. He's like CGI buff, and then we have Christopher Nolan, who like I saw that meme going around when he released Oppenheimer about like Christopher Nolan unleashes an atom bomb to get accurate footage of.
You can tell me
without the use of nuclear fission, he did apparently actually like on a small scale recreate the first like atomic explosion.
Yeah.
Which I'm sitting there like that should have shocked anyone. He actually crashed a 747 into the side of a building.
He crashed a 747 at the side of a building. He the opening in The Dark Knight Rises, the majority of it is practical.
They actually did that. Actually crashed a plane.
So like
Batman, like obviously Christian Bale's stunt double and it might have actually been Tom Hardy. I don't know.
I think it was actually Tom Hardy.
Hanging out of planes in The Dark Knight Rises. They're both actually just hanging out there. I mean, obviously, parts of Interstellar have to be CGI, but
of course,
they actually shot on location for places where the water world and man's ice planet are actually on places that look like that real.
But also, what I really liked.
I got the notification about 10 minutes. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Did you get it?
I got it this time.
But also, what I really liked about Interstellar was the fact that I mean, a lot of other like studios, if they were making that movie, or directors, like the shots when they're like exiting and entering like the atmosphere and stuff when it's the when it's the Rangers, they would have just been like, oh, do you know what would be a really cool shot if we saw like the whole ship and we just CGI it like coming into the atmosphere. Instead, Christopher Nolan just like put a camera on the side of a practical like thing, and then I mean, of course, like green screened around so it can look like it's entering the atmosphere, but then actual like had the thing vibrating so it looked like it's shaking as it's kind of entering the atmosphere.
Which is actually what it would look like. Also, Interstellar and Man of Steel, totally connected, but we'll talk about that later.
It's a later date. Can I come back to that
I've
one?
seen that theory.
It's wait, that's
an actual theory?
Yeah, have you not heard that one?
Years. Well, we've discussed it for years, but we've never actually seen anyone actually talk about it besides ourselves.
Yeah.
We'll talk
I'll
about
have to
it
find
later.
the link to it.
That's
bookmark
that. That's gonna be its own separate episode.
Yeah.
Anyways, personally, I'm always gonna pick Nolan over James Cameron every time because also James Cameron always comes off as pretentious.
Yeah. He's like, my movie's gonna make $2 billion because it needs to.
And it's like, dang it, he was right, but I still don't like it.
Well, he said just like that's for them to like make just to break even, basically.
Yeah, it was like the $2 billion. So in the end, what the profit that they made was like
$20. No, I don't know.
No, it was like they made like $400 million in the end.
Yeah, which isn't
like
bad.
I mean, like, that'd be like, I mean, like you you look at it and it is kind of funny because yeah, you're like, oh, cool, it made like $2.4 billion, and then you're like, $2 billion of that was just to break even from like all of
production costs.
Yeah, how much it costs to make, and then also for marketing, of course, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's like.
I think this is an interesting topic. It's not related to CGI, but I think we should move away from like this movie's gonna hit $1 billion, so let's just like plan for that. I think we need to get back to like if a movie makes $700 million, like wow, that's impressive. Like that's an impressive movie.
Yeah,
because like we live in this era where like if it's not $1 billion movie, people are like, oh, it's a crap movie, like it's a bad movie.
That's what's. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. That was the end of my.
Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna say that's kind of what's crazy about like the pull that Christopher Nolan actually has, because you look at it, like he has 2 movies that made like $1 billion. You know, he's got The Dark Knight, he's got The Dark Knight Rises. But I mean, like some of his like best ones, like critically, and like are Inception, Interstellar, and Dunkirk. And I mean, Dunkirk made like maybe like $600 million. And then Inception and Interstellar made like $700 to $800 million. And yeah, it's like that's like those are impressive numbers. But like when you look at the grand scheme of like these blockbusters that are out there making $1 billion, yet Christopher Nolan, when he's like, "Hey, I need $200 million to make a movie about a historical figure," they're like, "Here you go, take the money, do it."
Well, you also look at like, so I just googled it for Dunkirk. So Dunkirk made $522 million, but they had $100 million budget. So like they profited like $422 million.
Exactly.
Versus like James Cameron makes a $2 billion movie, and he only profits the exact same amount.
And he makes the exact same profit. Dude, that's actually crazy. I did not think about that.
I just wonder who the better movie maker is.
Exactly.
It's Christopher Nolan. It's
Christopher Nolan. We literally just solved it right there.
Alrighty, meeting ended.
That's it. We've made our point.
Christopher Nolan, I'm just saying, in the 2017 Oscars, which are technically, I mean, the 2018 Oscars, whichever. I don't know how people.
The one Dunkirk was
nominated for. He was robbed. Shape of Water shouldn't have won. I'm sorry. That's all I have to say. I'm out.
Thank you for coming to Tyler's TED Talk.
Exactly.
Tyler just gets up and leaves.
Just leave right now.
He's like, I'm done. That's what I came
made
here for.
And done.
Okay, we have 5 minutes left, so real quick, final question. Are superhero movies better with or without CGI? We've kind of touched on it, kind of hit on it, but
if it can be done, I think they're better without.
I agree with that definitely, and I'm sorry, I got to keep bringing up Christopher Nolan and the Dark Knight trilogy because they're the best. They are the best superhero movies. But so, like watching a lot of the behind the scenes for the Dark Knight, because Christopher Nolan basically didn't want to use any CGI, and you really see that. I mean, like he blew up an abandoned like building or whatever, and like this was like, there's our hospital, make it all look at like, and then like actually was like blow it up. And so when it came to Two-Face, he really wanted it to be practical. He didn't want it to be CGI.
Yeah.
So he burned his face off.
Exactly. No, but so he tried doing prosthetics. But what I do like about Christopher Nolan is that he can concede to when CGI needs to be used, because doing it, he was like, doing the prosthetics, it always is going to look more. It doesn't look like less. So they did the little CGI dots on Aaron Eckhart's face, and then the final result looks amazing because there's basically no other like actual like CGI
you have like
in this movie.
3 guys, and they're like, okay, you're our CGI guys, and they're like, oh, and they're like, you got one scene.
Exactly.
Don't worry, we got.
You have like 3 scenes, each of them are like 2 minutes each,
and then he dies,
and then he dies,
and then you're good. Yeah, I definitely think that's true. I think there's some things that can't be properly scoped without. There's like some superheroes that like, in the comics you can draw whatever you want. So like it's hard to bring some of those things. But one thing I wanted to mention, I know I'm gonna get out of the Christopher Nolan camp, so don't kill me. But the Matt Reeves Batman movie looks amazing as well.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And like Batman's one of those characters you can do very easily practically because he's a very practical character.
Like the explosion when the guy's car blows up. That was a real explosion. They had strings and they yanked Robert Pattinson, back, and he landed on a mat. But like, that's what I thought was cool. Like the trailer that they released the first trailer for the Batman, and Matt Reeves goes, "Oh, everything in that trailer is real. Everything in that trailer is practical effect." And you go, "Oh, so that explosion that Robert Pattinson's falling away from him."
Well, most likely a stunt double, but still.
Yes. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So still, they did just like yank him out. I was like, there you go.
Yeah, I don't know how many actually action star actors we have anymore. Tom Cruise is probably the last one.
Is Jackie Chan still making movies?
But Tom Cruise does all of his own stunts, and he's got 2 more Mission Impossible movies coming
Exactly.
out.
Yeah. I've always wondered though, what happens if what if like they do a stunt and he just dies? Like, what if his parachute doesn't work and they're just like,
we have 2 minutes left, so we really need to make this short so we don't get. That happened last time. I got cut off. I was like running through it really fast. It was hilarious. And since we didn't get that video up, like it just sounds that way because we don't have the video of me trying to like. But anyways. Mission Impossible Fallout, when he's jumping from roof to roof, you see him hit and he misses the jump, and then you watch for the next few seconds and he's like limping, and then they cut the movie and they were out of it for like 8 months, 9 months.
Yeah.
Broke his. You
Filming
can
because
see
he
his ankle
broke his
smack
freaking
it.
leg, and he just kept going. And they're like,
What a
he's
guy.
like, nope, not cutting it. Like, I'm just gonna finish this shot and then I can heal.
The fact that he proceeded to keep trying to run.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Insane. Like I said, we have a timer going on this Zoom thing that we're doing. Hopefully, Brian can get this recording up so all you wonderful people can see us for the first time on our recording. But that's all we have time for today. If you love this episode and want to show your support, you can go over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. And I'm so sorry I didn't go over and check today to see if anyone has reviewed us. So we'll get you next week. I'm quickly looking up on my phone. Awesome phone case, by the way. That's all the flashes.
Nice.
But our episode next week is going to be on the Batman, by the way. That's what we have down on our list.
Heck yes.
And the Guardians of the Galaxy comes out May 5th. So is that in 2 weeks? I think so. Is that how calendars work?
No, it's next week.
It's today's Monday.
So,
Yeah. It's next week,
yeah.
isn't it?
So
There's 30 days this month.
expect in 20. So we do an episode usually 2 weeks after. Yeah. So the 24th, the 5th. Let's see. Oh, I'm running out of time. 8 seconds. Yeah. Okay. So in 3 weeks, we'll be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. Thank you so much. This is available wherever. And now the video is going to cut out and it's going to be awkward. But wherever podcasts or you put them in your ear hole, they're available. So go check us out and leave us a review. All right. Bye.
Peace out, y'all.